It's Josephine here, and before we get started with today's episode, I just wanted to let you know about my Find Your Next 5 Clients course. If you're looking to attract more therapy clients this autumn, I've reduced the price from £97 to £9 just until Monday the 31st of August. Inside, you will find practical, ethical strategies to help you attract your next clients, along with templates and ideas that you can put into practice straight away. Just click on the link in the show notes or search for Josephine Hughes Find Your Next 5 Clients. That will hopefully take you to the webpage. Now, let's get on with today's episode.
So, for instance, someone who just feels I'm really stressed, I'm really overwhelmed, maybe I'm going through a major life transition like a divorce or, a career change or something like that. They're not going to be understanding what being in constant sympathetic activation is. They're not going to necessarily be wondering about, is this therapist going to help me with nervous system regulation?
Welcome to Good Enough Counsellors, the podcast for growing a private practice without the pressure to be perfect. I'm Josephine Hughes, counsellor and creator of Therapy Growth Group, helping you get the clients you want and create the practice of your dreams. In today's episode, I'm joined by Kat Love, who specialises in websites and marketing for therapists. Kat came to this work through lived experience. Therapy played a huge part in healing from childhood sexual abuse, and that experience now shapes how Kat supports therapists to find the right words for their websites, to build strong referral networks and to attract clients without feeling overwhelmed by marketing. She has 15 years experience building websites, originally creating sites for their own business, and now works exclusively with therapists who want their online presence to feel ethical, human and effective. And here's a fun fact. Kat is over 6 feet tall and their nickname at high school was Stilts. I've been following Kat for years now, longer than I can remember exactly when I started, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So welcome, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's really good to see you. And as you can probably tell, Kat's actually in California at the moment, I think. Is that right? Or
Correct.
Yeah?
Just outside of San Francisco.
Fantastic. So it's morning for Kat and evening for me, but we managed to find a time where we could get together, which is great. So, big question to start with, Kat. You work with a lot of therapists on their website and marketing. From what you see, what do you think therapists most misunderstand about marketing?
That's a great question. I think what therapists most misunderstand is that marketing requires a lot of visibility work and not just the kinds of marketing that you do to kind of reconnect with the people that you've already connected with. So when we think of marketing as like kind of a journey that people are on in order to come in and get therapy, there are kind of 3 stages they need to go through. The first stage is awareness, which is essentially when they go from not knowing who you are to knowing who you are. And then the second stage is consideration, where they get to kind of understand, is this even someone that I would consider going to therapy with? And then they need to actually take that next step. That next step might be a free phone consultation. It might be a first session, but they need to take that next step with you. And I think a lot of times therapists get wrapped up in the types of tactics that help people at these later stages. So for instance, agonizing over the photos on their website or looking at their directory profiles over and over and rewriting them.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a real familiar one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think while those things are good to not perfect, but to work on and optimize, the more important thing to do in marketing is that first step where people can become aware of you for the first time. And the types of tactics that are in that kind of awareness level include things like building a referral network, being on directory profiles, so increasing the number of directory profiles that you might be on, and then also things like ads can be at that level too. Sometimes you can also consider SEO to be at that level, and certain types of social media activity could possibly fall into that level as well.
Yeah. It's that sort of visibility, isn't it? It's making as many people find you, in a sense, as possible. But that's sort of quite, it feels sometimes as though it's almost like the reverse of finding a needle in a haystack, because you're the needle and you want people to find you, but there's a great haystack out there. And it's how do you make an impact so that people can actually find you? I think it's one of the hardest jobs, isn't it, for therapists to actually do? Why do you think it's so often something we don't think about?
I think, well, so I have a few witnessings here at this for this question.
Yeah.
What I've witnessed to be true for a lot of therapists over the years is that the awareness level activities are scary.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the scary stuff. So when therapists talk about, oh, marketing's scary or marketing feels overwhelming, it's usually that awareness level. What comes up for a lot of therapists is fears of being seen. Within that, it can just be over vulnerability. It can be a fear of judgment. I think also some of the visibility or awareness level activities require risk. So for instance, if you start paying for ads, there has to be some amount of willingness to invest in something that you're trying out and you're not going to be, maybe seeing results for a month or two. And that requires a bit of a leap of faith that this is going to work out. And so all of the awareness level activity, it's both the most important level of activity to do in your marketing for it to be effective, but it's also the scariest.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a thing.
Do you think out of any of those activities you've mentioned that there's anything that might feel sort of like more comfortable? Or do you find that therapists might find particular things more comfortable than others in those activities?
Yeah, I think the good news is that most therapists find building a network more comfortable. And even if you're introverted, if you're extroverted, if you like groups, if you don't, if you want more of a one-on-one approach, there is a way to build a referral network that will most likely be very consistent with what I call your level of marketing tolerance. That falls within your window of marketing tolerance.
I love that expression because we talk about windows of tolerance. So to make it a marketing window of tolerance,
right, yeah. And so a question is like what of those awareness activities can you do that is within your window of marketing tolerance? But I think the good news is I've seen again and again that most therapists can find something that's within their tolerance and that it can also be very successful.
Yeah, I agree. I think I always say to people that I work with, the thing is other therapists are always looking to make referrals because you're getting referrals in. You can't take them all on because, it might be a relation of a client that you've seen in the past, or it could be a personal friend. And so I think other therapists can be a really, really great source of referrals. And also they're really strong referrals, aren't they? Because they're word of mouth referrals. And that is possibly one of the best ways that we can get people into our business, I think. So if we move on to that consideration phase, so you've got the awareness phase, that's the first bit. And then you've got the consideration phase. And that's the bit where people would be doing things like blogs and that sort of thing. Is that the case? Is that what you would call consideration, that phase?
Yeah. So blogs are an interesting marketing activity because it can, depending on how you do blogging, it could be actually leveraged for multiple different types of effects in your marketing.
Yeah.
I think the most common way that people might think of them is what you just shared, where, someone goes to your website and they're considering, maybe they have 3 different tabs open. They're thinking about a few different therapists at once and considering all of them. If you have a blog, it can be a differentiator between you and someone else. It can kind of be a place where you can demonstrate your expertise and your care, right? And so the website visitor that's on your blog and on your website considering you as a potential right fit for themselves, they have more content to just evaluate and to consider you. And that's one way that blogs can definitely be used. But another way is for SEO and also for AI optimization as well. So if you are strategic and doing a little bit of research around the terms that people might be searching for, you can use your blog and your website in general to post certain types of content that are more likely to be found by search engines and AI. And so then all of a sudden the blog isn't just about consideration, and it kind of pops up into that awareness level where it is kind of more of an awareness level activity. But I think, and a third way that you can use blogs that nobody really talks about, but it's really popular, or I mean, really powerful, is for networking.
Right. Say some more.
Yeah. So I think that if you have a blog, you could use your blog to like feature people who are likely to send referrals to you in your blog, right? So that's one way you could do it. So for instance, if you are doing evaluation services for children, you might feature different pediatrician offices or different physical therapy offices that are specialized in pediatric physical therapy. And you can also invite people to guest post on your blog. There's different ways that you can leverage, and also content types too, podcasting, videos.
It's building relationships, isn't it? And using your content to build relationships with people. So you're sort of saying you could invite them to blog post on your blogs and vice versa, possibly, that you would guest blog on their website as well. And that just sort of helps build up those relationships and helps other people find you. Yeah, it's a really good one. We don't often talk, like you say, we don't often talk about that one, do we?
No.
Yeah. Just to put this in context, the conversation that Kat and I are having, I read Kat's brilliant blog on this. That's what prompted me to get in touch with them. And so if you go along to Kat's website, it's catlove.com. Is that where you wrote that particular blog, Kat? One of the things that you talked about in the blog was the fact that clients move at different rates. So you might get clients who respond immediately to what you're writing and other clients who don't respond for a while. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So while I do emphasize that much of your marketing activity should be at that awareness level of activity, I do see that some clients are definitely not in that agony where they're like, I need a therapist today. Or they are in that agony and something comes up, right? They're a distressed couple and but they're balancing busy lives and children and everything. And so they're like, yes, we need to go see a couples therapist, but let's just think about it. Right. And so there are people that are kind of in these two categories. One category being the client in chaos that is almost needing immediate help and they're very driven to get support right now. I would say that's kind of the majority of people that are going to land on your website or encounter your marketing are kind of in that category. But then there are those clients who might appreciate not having to make that decision right away. And for that client, we have the types of marketing activities at that consideration level. Things like having an email list, being on social media and posting regularly. These are the types of things that you can do to offer them a way to continue to stay in touch with you beyond the time that they discover you and become aware of you.
It's just building that relationship continuously, isn't it? And I mean, I would definitely agree with you. I've had people who've come in. I can certainly remember one client who started me about a year after they'd actually found me initially, and they'd found me online on a directory. And when they eventually came, they said, yeah, I found you a year ago, but it took them that time to come forward, I think, for the sort of urgency to build up. And I think sometimes people are maybe aware that they're going to need help, but they haven't got that sense of it's now. And then they get to the point where they think, yeah, it is now. And it's good that you're still in their minds, really, isn't it, at that point? Okay, Kat, actually, I'm going to go completely off my list of questions because this just sort of occurred to me. Because we just mentioned AI and people finding you on AI. Is AI affecting the number of people coming forward, do you think? Do you think people are using AI for therapy? I don't know if you've heard anything from any of the people that you work with, because certainly in the UK, we don't know if it's sort of cost of living, for example, that might be affecting people, but there seems to be fewer people coming forward at the moment. And I just wondered if that was the case, if you've heard anything and whether you think AI's got a role in any of this.
Yeah, so I will say that we are seeing that in 2025, it's harder to fill a practice than it was previously.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of multiple factors coming into play at the same time. One is definitely the economic situation. At times are harder for a lot of people. So that's going to make the demand for therapy lower just by the constraint of income. Then we also have a lot of the tech companies. I don't know how this is affecting the UK specifically, but in the United States, we have a lot of tech companies that are kind of coming in and also offering therapy at really inexpensive rates.
Yeah.
And they also tend to have a lot of awareness budget, right? So this is why we see their ads everywhere, all over social media. You Google anxiety therapist near me, and you'll see they have dominate the ads. And so I think that also has taken some of the share of the demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I think that it's the economics. It's the hold on.
We do have BetterHelp over here. You're very careful just to say companies. Yeah.
Yeah, the tech companies. And I think the third thing is that in 2020, when the pandemic first started, we saw a rapid increase in demand. And I think because it was so easy to fill a practice back then, a lot of practices actually opened in 2020, in 2021. Therapists didn't have to do as much work to get full. And I think that also means that today, with the decrease in demand from those other factors, it means that there's like an oversupply of therapists to begin with, too. All this said, I don't know that these are the reason. I don't think that AI is the reason that practices aren't getting as much demand. I think that AI, and this might just be my personal opinion, but I feel like AI is more in the category of something like a book or a course that you could take. It's more like psychoeducation a little bit. There is more interactivity, but it's kind of, I don't see it as something where people are going to say, people that have the funds to afford therapy are going to say, I prefer AI.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's more like, I don't have any choice but to use it because I don't have the money to afford the actual thing that I'm wanting.
Yeah, because I really am a firm believer in the value of therapy and talking to a human. And I mean, I use AI, I will put in little things when I'm feeling upset or whatever and have a chat to AI about it. But it's not the same as talking to someone, is it? It's not the same as having someone who's really listening to you. And I don't think it's the same as, embarking on a course of therapy with someone who can help you move in a particular direction. It's just, It's certainly not there yet, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a sort of, just a sort of side question, really, because we were talking about AI. So I was just sort of thinking, because the other thing you talked about, going back to this funnel idea, and there was the awareness stage, consideration phase, and then there is the third stage, isn't it, where people take action.
Yes.
And I think we don't tend to think about this a lot, do we? We think if we just sort of bung our contact details on there somewhere, people will get in touch. Is there anything we can do to help people, when they're going through that consideration phase? What can we do to encourage them to actually take action? And how can we make it as easy as possible for them, do you think?
Yes, that's a great question, because I do think that it's under considered. Often you might even have a whole website and not have anything on there about what the next step might be. And so that's a solution. You need to have information there that outlines very clearly and very prominently what that next step is. And I think it's also really good to have somewhere, usually a contact page on your website, where you explain more in depth about what happens during that next step.
Yeah.
So it's not just, come in for a free 15-minute phone consultation or come in for a first session. It's also going to be great to pair that with the information of like what is actually happening during that call. And I think the reason I suggest that is because therapy clients are already in very high distress.
Yeah.
Things feel very chaotic. The ground is shifting under them. And so what's the best thing to do on your website is to make sure that you're making it stable for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making it very clear for them. Yeah.
It helps people to know what's going to happen, and that helps them to feel safe, doesn't it? And they think, yeah, we're going to have, like, if they know it's going to be 15 minutes, it's all right. I'm not going to have a chance to have to tell my therapist everything. It's just going to be a short chat, and the therapist can say that, we're just going to very quickly find out something about what you want to talk about, or I'll ask you a few questions, and it just helps people to feel a bit more secure that, they know what to expect, really. So we sort of talk about it as there might be friction that gets in the way. You're sort of making it harder for people, aren't you, if you don't have certain things in place. So you would say what the main thing is to have, like, contact me on each page. Would that be the case? Or what would get in the way of people actually getting in touch, do you think?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that would be friction there would be not having that invitation to take that next step. And I think pairing it with something that's easy for people to do is also a friction point. So sometimes, for instance, I see therapists putting like really complicated contact forms on their website. So something that has like, name, email address, phone. When should I contact you? Should I call you or should I not? Like it's basically like they have to do paperwork in order to get that free call. And I think I understand why some therapists are thinking to do that. They're like, oh, I'll make it like really, really efficient. And so, it'll feel like I'm already kind of, having a conversation with them just through the form, like I'm interviewing them. But I think that actually is more friction than helpful. Yeah. And so having some options for either a very, very, very simplified contact form or just your phone and your email address, those work as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the thing is when people have to make decisions, that can actually get in the way, can't it? Whereas just contact me and this is what will happen. It's actually, there's not that sort of mental load. And you were saying about people can be in a high level of distress anyway, so we've got to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to contact us. Yeah. I wondered if we could move on a bit, because one of the things this is from ages ago, I think it was pre-pandemic, I read one of your blogs all about psychobabble.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And actually, I use the term with people sometimes, sort of thinking, well, everybody must know what I'm talking about. Can you tell us a bit about what you mean by the phrase psychobabble? What it is?
So psychobabble is a very common thing to see on therapist websites, but it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Psychobabble is when we use higher levels of mental health insight language for people who are not of that level of consciousness.
Yes.
So for instance, someone who just feels, I'm really stressed, I'm really overwhelmed, maybe I'm going through a major life transition like a divorce or, a career change or something like that. They're not going to be understanding what being in constant sympathetic activation is. They're not going to necessarily be wondering about, is this therapist going to help me with nervous system regulation?
Yeah.
So it's all about understanding where your client's consciousness level is and what they're actually struggling with and what they're actually desiring, and then making sure you're meeting them there.
Yeah. It's a really sort of put that really in a nutshell, I think, which is brilliant. So why do you think they actually do that? Why do you think they fall into psychobabble?
I think it happens for multiple reasons. One reason is that therapists get really excited about the destinations that they can help their clients reach. And so it's just kind of this like, yeah, we can get you nervous system regulation skills, right? And that's like, oh my God, that's so great that I can do that. So it's like sometimes it's just honestly excitement. Sometimes it's also difficult to separate out what you know about your client versus what they know.
Yeah.
So you might have a client sitting in front of you and be like, oh wow, this client is really struggling with codependency. But that client might not know what codependency is, how it's formed, that they're experiencing it, how that shows up in their day-to-day life. But you, as the informed clinician, sit with them in session and say, wow, like that's a thing. But when it comes to your marketing, and your sales, you can't reflect something back to them that isn't what they are conscious of yet.
Yeah. You are singing a tune that I love to hear. This is one of the things that I do speak with my therapist about an awful lot, is trying to get them to almost step back, sort of almost like they knew anything, almost like, where were you when you first went for therapy, and the sorts of ways that you would have expressed it. Because I always think, with me, it took me a good sort of year and a half in therapy before I realised that actually I didn't feel good enough. And I hadn't been able to express it like that. And it was only when I was able to express it like that I could start sort of seeing where it was occurring. But prior to that, it was just, I'm just a load of old rubbish. I couldn't see that it was just, I was telling myself that, and it's thinking back to that, isn't it? To how your clients might express their feelings at the moment. And we don't realise that we're doing it because, like you say, we've reached a different level of consciousness. We've got all that training and everything. It's really difficult to think back to what it's like before we learn all those things. But I think it's one of the keys. It just feels so important, which is why I sort of wanted to ask you about it. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about this whole subject of psychobabble, and often it gets in the way of you being able to reach your clients, because without realising, you're using language that they don't really understand. And this is what I really do help therapists with in Therapy Growth Group. At the moment, we are starting our whole month called Find Your Focus, where we look at the subject of niching. Should you niche? And what I like to say is really think about who you would most like to work with and think about how we can communicate with them. And working with me, you'll get the opportunity to get feedback on your profile and what you're saying, and whether or not it really does break through that psychobabble and really speak to clients. So if you'd like some help with that, just check out the show notes and come along and join Therapy Growth Group. You'll find the link there. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about as well was about ethical testimonials and social proof, because I know this is something else that you talk about, and it's such a problem, isn't it, for many of us to know how to share testimonials. Can we share testimonials? Is it ethical to ask for testimonials? I just really wanted to pick your brains about that as well, because it's a minefield for us, I really think. So can you tell us what you think, what your sort of suggestions are for getting testimonials and social proof?
Yeah. So I think testimonials and social proof are kind of two different things. There are ways to ethically get social proof without any clients involved directly.
Yeah.
But let's talk about both. For testimonials, I think that there are some ethical minefield. It's kind of an ethical minefield because, first of all, clients that you're in relationship with, that you're in a therapeutic relationship with, do you feel comfortable asking them to give you feedback that will be posted publicly? I mean, even if it's anonymized, that you don't put their name. I think that, I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained in therapy. But what my understanding is that therapeutic relationship is one to be like very protected.
Yeah.
And I think I could imagine that depending on the clientele that you work with, it could be risky, therapeutically speaking, to invite your clients to give testimonials. And For instance, you might have clients that feel like, oh, like I have to give a positive testimonial, or like, yeah, just like the pressure of that, or like a role, almost like a role reversal of like, I need to help my therapist, right? Instead of the therapist helping me. But I don't know that that's true for all niche areas. And so I think some therapists, depending on who the type of client that they work with, they might have a sense of like, will this client respond in a way that will harm the therapeutic process? Or is it something that is less of an issue? So for instance, some therapists are also doing like therapy groups, or like a situation I can imagine where it might be more ethically feasible is like if you're doing teen groups or child groups or something like that, and you ask the parents for feedback, right? So it's like there are certain situations where it will probably feel okay to do testimonials. And then good thing about getting testimonials is that they're very effective. So if you do have the ethical space to get testimonials and have them either on Google reviews or just posting them on your website, it can be very, very powerful way, again, in that consideration phase where someone lands on your website and they're considering whether or not to move forward with you. Social proof, though, can be gathered in other ways as well that don't involve your clients directly. A few examples of that. One is you can write case studies that are just fictitious stories of like, here's an example of how I helped this client go from anxious to calm, or here's how we helped this couple pair after years of conflict, right? And so you can do case study stories, which are very, very powerful. You can also get professional endorsements. So for instance, I had a therapist who was a sex therapist who got professional endorsements from medical doctors. And could put their logos and their names on the website and say, I'm recommended by all of these medical professionals. You can also take this feedback that you do get from clients, because clients, when you're doing good work, they will volunteer information to you. They'll say, oh my gosh, you helped me so much in this and that way. Or sometimes it could be like qualitative feedback too. It can be like, oh, I love when I come into session with you that you're so calm, and it's like a space where I can finally, put down my to-do list and just focus on me. So you can use that in your marketing messaging and in your sales messaging. You can use it both in terms of just shaping what you're saying generally about yourself and what makes you different. But you can also use specific phrases to highlight that this is feedback that you're getting. So you can say things like, clients often tell me, I often hear, right? People say this about me. And I think phrasing it that way and not using quotation marks is also a powerful way to get more like social proof worked into how you're showing up.
Yeah. Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. I hope everybody takes that in, because it is really difficult, and it's something that we debate quite a lot. Can we get testimonials? Is it breaching confidentiality? Like you say, that sort of power relationship as well. And even sort of like when you've finished with clients, it can be really awkward to ask as well. So to have this other way of doing it, I think is really helpful. So thank you for that. So I was just thinking, as we draw to a close, if a therapist is feeling overwhelmed or discouraged by marketing, what would you want them to remember?
Ooh.
I love asking difficult questions.
Yeah, no small question there.
Yeah.
I think I would want them to tap into an energy of possibility. Like, I think it's often when marketing is overwhelming or stressful, it's easy to get into that feeling of like, I have to do this, I have to do that, or like, it's kind of when like everything starts going dark and like it feels like there's not a lot of options. Like that can be very common because it is so overwhelming and can activate a lot of our stuff. And so what my hope would be is that therapists can get to a place where it's the opposite of that. It feels expansive. It feels like there's so many different things that I can do. And I have choice and freedom in this process ahead to move in a way that is within my window of marketing tolerance and that doesn't totally paralyze me into inaction. So yeah, I think that's what I would want them to know. Yeah.
To sort of rather than feeling overwhelmed by it, to sort of see that there's possibilities there and that they can choose and they've got a choice. It doesn't have to be this huge weight and burden of do all these things, but, find something. And I think, just drawing it back to what you said about referral networks, and that can really fit into our sort of window of marketing tolerance, because that's about relationship. And I think we're quite good at relationships. I would hope
exactly. So. Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Kat, just give us a little brief overview of where people can find you and the sort of services you offer people.
Yes. So right now, my best link is probably catlove.com. That's kind of my home base for everything that I do. And I also have Empathy Sites, which is a website design company for therapists. And that's empathysites.com.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think do you mainly design websites, or do you do other things as well with to help therapists?
Yeah, so websites are my main thing, but I also on the side, because I really enjoy helping a therapist move through, marketing fear and then marketing success.
Yeah.
I also offer marketing coaching, so one-on-one and group coaching too, and those are available through catlove.com.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So if anybody wants to find out more, that's where they can go. And I'll pop the website into the show note as well, so everybody can click on that to follow through. And I do thoroughly recommend following Kat for all their wisdom, of which we've just heard a little bit on this podcast. Because, as I say, I've been following Kat for a while, and I always love their blogs, and they're always informative and give you an awful lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Do come and join my Facebook community, Good Enough Counsellors. And for more information about how I can help you develop your private practice, please visit my website, josephinehughes.com. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you could share it with a fellow therapist or leave a review on your podcast app. And in closing, I'd love to remind you that every single step you make gets you closer to your dream. I really believe you can do it.